Hi guys, Murk here again. Welcome to my no bullshit hacking tutorial. We're going to cover two things in this video. I'm going to try and go through them fairly quickly. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the ship setup. Second thing we're going to talk about is the actual strategy that I use when I'm hacking Relic sites. Right, so on ship setup, I typically use something like this. You'll have a probe launcher and a cloak, obviously. Those are sort of the standard for this. You'll want a micro warp drive, not an afterburner. If you're going to be a nullsec, you want to be able to escape bubble camps. You want to fit it out for speed. You can put more car stabs if you're a scrub. And then if you want, you probably want to have some modules for increasing your probe strength and stuff like that. So I've got a scan range finding array, and that should actually be, the second one should be a scan pinpointing array, not a range finding, because these have stacking penalties. So in the mid slots, you also want a cargo scanner, you want a relic analyzer, and then for the rigs, you want an emission scope sharpener, which increases the strength of your relic modules, and then you want something just to increase your probe strength, like this gravity capacitor upgrade, because you want to be able to scan down the hardest sites, which is, if you've got scrubby skills like me, not always super easy. One other thing I will mention, you'll notice on here that I don't have a data analyzer. Don't bother, throw it in the garbage unless CCP rebalances them. Data sites are not worth your time right now. Alright, with that out of the way, let's take a quick look at the actual technique that's used for hacking these kits. Alright, so when you warp into a site, you're just going to approach CAN, lock it up, and once you're within, I think it's 5,000 meters, you can activate your module on it. This window is going to pop up here, and this is the minigame window. The two things you need to know are these. So first, on the left, you've got virus coherence. That's essentially your health. And on the right, you've got virus strength. That's essentially the damage that you do. So defense subsystems will appear as you're clicking on these nodes looking for the system core, and they also have a coherence and a strength. And so you have to defeat them and not be defeated yourself. And by defeated, I mean reach a virus coherence of 0, and then the window will close and you'll possibly explode the can. So you want to do that and defeat all the defense subsystems, and then successfully defeat the core as well in order to unlock the can. It's pretty straightforward, but there are some tricks to defeating the defense subsystems, which I'm going to discuss. There are, and once you progress to the harder cans, defensive subsystems and power-ups that appear, and the power-ups are intended to take down a specific defensive subsystem. They're paired. They're not there at random. They're essentially designed so that certain power-ups are much more effective than others at taking down specific defensive subsystems. I'm going to provide you some examples of this because I know what I'm talking about sounds a bit vague, but essentially what you need to remember is this. Secondary vectors are very great at destroying virus suppressors. Polymorphic shields are designed for destroying antivirus. Kernel rot is great against firewalls and system cores, and self-repairs, which appear in all of the cans, but especially they're one of the ones that's present in the lowest tier cans, which are super easy to hack. Self-repairs are good pretty much as just like a general all-around thing. Alright, here we go. Number 1. This is a self-repair. When you get one of these, I typically use it right away. What it does is it adds to your total virus coherence with every successive turn that you make over the next 2 turns after you click it. And so those are just pretty useful generally. There's not really any reason why you would hesitate on using that. Next thing up, you've got kernel rot. This is a kernel rot here, this sort of data chip looking thing. I find it's particularly useful against things like firewalls. I could use it up here on this virus suppressor, but I'm not going to because I want to save that so I can show you how I take care of those if we find a secondary vector. Alright, so here we go. We've got a secondary vector, and the way that this thing works is when you click on it, you can see it's got a little 3 above it. That means it's active for 3 turns, and that's just the number of turns that it needs to destroy a virus suppressor. So I'm going to activate it here, and then I've already uncovered the core, but I'm going to just go click some other spaces just to waste some turns. And you can see that as I click these other squares, it will hack away at the virus suppressor. And look at that, it's gone. So what that does is it saves us from having to click several times on the virus suppressor and waste a lot of our virus coherence. So the secondary vector really is paired super well for destroying virus suppressors. Alright, so here's a situation that I really wanted to talk about. So if you can see here, we've got two of these defensive subsystems, and you can potentially get a polymorphic shield in here somewhere, and if you find one, the best thing to do is to hit one of these and then the other. And the reason that's a good strategy is because these have a coherence of 50. We're going to do, I've got virus strength of 30 here, so you'll be able to take these out in 2 hits. So the second hit on either of these subsystems is not going to lower our coherence at all. And so what you want to do is, rather than wasting both of those on one of these, is you can actually take these both out with one power up if you get a polymorphic shield. So I'll see if I can find one and show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so we've got a polymorphic shield just a few squares away. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click on one of these and then the other. You can see I took no damage because of the polymorphic shield. And then I'm going to delete one and delete the other. So that is how you use a polymorphic shield. So none of these are hard and fast rules. I want to point that out as well, is that this is the way in which these power-ups are most useful against the defensive subsystems. They're not always going to work out the way that you want them to. They're not always going to go according to plan. You're going to come across situations where you either have no power-ups and you have to take down a defensive subsystem the hard way, or you have power-up that is not necessarily matched to a defensive subsystem, but you have no choice but to take it out regardless. And so, of course, those situations are going to arise. But as long as you try and stick to these rules where you can, you'll find that you have a much easier time taking out defensive subsystems while you're hacking. Alright, generally speaking, when I warp into a site, I would cargo scan all of the cans with the cargo scanner, and only hack the cans that are worthwhile opening. Generally ones with expensive loot, intact armor plates, things like that. If a can is only worth like 1 or 2 mil, I generally don't bother with it. Let's approach the Sancha Ruins and have a go. We've got 2, 1 data cache, 4, 3, 4, 4, 3, and there's an antivirus. Alright, so we now have a restoration node. I'm going to kill it right away. Goodbye. 2, 1, and then there's another data cache, and then we'll go up the other way. There's another one. Rid of it. 2, 1. Repair. 1. 1, 1. So there'll be something there. That's useful. 4, 3, 2, 1. There's the core. Use that. Doesn't really matter. System hack is successful. I had actually stopped the recording after the last one, after the successful can, but since I didn't cargo scan any of these, I just wanted to quickly open and show you that this really is worthwhile. So there's 79 mil in this can that I just hacked for the example in this video. Let's loot that. And look at that, another 61 mil in the other can. Let's loot that as well. Alright, we'll lock up the can, activate the module. We've got 3, 2, 1. That means one of these 3 nodes is going to have something useful or data cache. It's not this one, so it's 2 squares away. That means it's this one. So it's a data cache, so I'll leave it. 3, 2, 1. There's a kernel rot. This is 3. This was 2. That means there's 1 here in the corner. The corner is generally a data cache. Let's try it and see what we get. And there's a antivirus. Alright, so now we're at an impasse. We have to hack one of these in order to get out. I'm going to hack this guy away. And there's another antivirus. Just knock it down. 3, 2, 1, 0. And there's the core. Now I don't have the power to take out the core right now. I don't have the virus coherence, because if I try to hack this now, it's going to bring my coherence below 0, so we have to look for some power-ups in order to take the core down. This is an instance where I would actually consider opening up data cache. I'm going to look at some of these other nodes first. 2, Alright, can't get that. So there is something up there that I can't currently access. And there is a polymorphic shield. So 1, 2, 3, can is open successfully. Alright, let's have a go at this ruins, which is the more difficult tier of the relic cans. So right off the bat, we've got these guys. 4, 5, so I'm not going to bother going this way. 3, 2, 1, there'll be something here. It's a data cache. 3, 2, 1. Alright, so we've got this suppressor. We could either take it out now because it's pretty early, or we could wait and see if we get power up to take it out, which I think I'm going to do. So we'll just try and go around it. 4, 3, 2, 1. Data cache. 5, 5, 5. Alright, so we're at an impasse, so let's take it out. Alright, there's kernel rot. We can use it to get rid of this guy. There's the core. 1, 2, 3. Can is successfully opened. Alright, so that pretty much sums everything up. I've always had pretty great success using these techniques. May not be the best way. I don't know if there's a better way or what other people are doing these days. But my experience has always been that as long as you take your time and are careful and really think about what you're doing in the minigame, even with mediocre skills and Tech 1 Relic Analyzer, which is what I have, you will very rarely fail any hacks, even on the most difficult cans which you find in the sites, which are the ruins. So if you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask me. You can reach out to me in game. You can leave a comment below, and you can also join our public channel in game, which is TAABE Public. Take care.